High above the mortal world, where mountains pierced the sky and the clouds gathered in endless billows, there reigned Zeus, king of gods, ruler of thunder, lightning, and storms. Olympus, a palace carved of clouds and stone, glittered with brilliance that no mortal eye could endure. Towers of gold rose toward the heavens, their pinnacles catching the first rays of dawn, and halls of crystal reflected the endless expanse of sky in 1,000 fractured rainbows. Here, where the air was thin and pure, Zeus moved with the slow majesty of the eternal, his presence commanding the heavens, the earth below, and the unseen realms beyond. Beneath him, the world sprawled in intricate patterns, a living tapestry of rivers, forests, seas, and mountains. Each valley, each grove, each city pulsed with hidden life, carrying secrets that reached upward to the sky in whispers of wind and vapor. Zeus, seated upon his throne of storm-formed marble, observed the world with eyes that mirrored the tempest, fierce yet knowing, radiant yet shadowed. The air around him hummed with latent energy, as if every breath carried the weight of eternity, and the clouds that gathered at the horizon bent to his will, forming shapes of silver and gray, of tempest and calm, of shadow and light. It was in these clouds that Zeus first noticed a subtle unrest, a quiet murmur that threaded through the sky. Unlike ordinary wind or storm, this was a whisper with meaning, a hidden cadence that seemed to carry secrets beyond mortal comprehension. The clouds were restless, moving not as obedient servants, but as sentient beings, twisting and shifting with purpose, their edges alight with silver fire, their shadows deep with ancient mystery. Each gust of wind, each curling wisp, seemed to carry a voice, a story, a fragment of knowledge that reached for the mind of the king above. For ages, Zeus had ruled the skies with absolute authority. He had summoned storms to punish mortals, calmed tempests to save cities, wielded lightning to uphold justice, and commanded winds to shape the course of ships and armies alike. Yet these whispers were different. They were neither commands nor complaints. They were riddles, hints of unseen events, fragments of truth hidden in the vast web of the world. They spoke not of what had been, but of what could be, of possibilities and consequences, of secrets carried on currents of air and time. Curiosity stirred within him, a sensation both familiar and unsettling. Zeus rose from his throne, his robes of cloud and light billowing in response to the power that emanated from his being. The throne itself seemed to sigh with anticipation, as if the heavens awaited his decision. The king of gods mounted his chariot, its wheels forged of storm and lightning, pulled by mighty steeds whose hooves struck sparks from the air. The winds themselves seemed to bend toward him, clearing a path through the endless sky. As he moved among the clouds, the whispers grew louder, clearer, yet still elusive. Voices spoke of distant lands where mortals plotted, of hidden glades where nymphs danced unseen, of mountains untouched by human eyes, and of seas that carried both hope and danger. Some whispers were gentle, like a caress of air upon the cheek. Others were sharp, like a lightning strike splitting a tree, demanding attention. Each carried a lesson, a warning, or a secret, and each sought acknowledgement from the king who ruled the storm. The cloud twisted in silver arcs and shadowed curtains, forming shapes both familiar and strange. Some resembled great beasts of old, dragons coiled upon peaks, lions crouched in mist, serpents winding through the skies. Others appeared as abstract forms, impossible to name, yet undeniably alive, as if the very essence of air and water and spirit had congealed into shape. And through them all, Zeus moved with deliberate grace, observing, listening, discerning which whispers carried truth and which were mere echoes of the wind. Below him, the mortal world slept, unaware of the divine scrutiny above. Cities were quiet, rivers glimmered with faint reflections of the moon and stars. Forests breathed in rhythm with the night. Yet every action, every hidden thought, every act of courage or folly reached the clouds and became part of the whispers. Zeus understood that even the smallest mortal deed could ripple outward, affecting storms, tides, and the fates of kingdoms. And so he listened, not with the impatience of a ruler, but with the patience of eternity, absorbing knowledge, weighing consequence, and preparing for action. As dawn approached, the sky shifted, yet the whispers did not fade. They carried a sense of anticipation, a story unfolding in secret, waiting for the right moment to reveal itself. Zeus paused his chariot atop a ridge of cloud, raising his hand, and the wind stilled. The murmurs hushed, as if the world itself leaned forward to witness what would come next. The king of gods, master of storm and lightning, ruler of skies and clouds, felt a thrill of anticipation. There was a new tale emerging, one that intertwined mortal ambition, divine intent, and the restless secrets of the clouds themselves. And so the stage was set. Zeus, in all his majesty, would follow the whispers, unravel their meaning, and wield his power not only in fury, but in wisdom. The clouds, alive and sentient, awaited his command, ready to reveal their truths. The world below would tremble and breathe beneath the unseen hand of the sky. And the story of Zeus and the whispering clouds would begin, a tale of power, mystery, justice, and the delicate balance of the heavens and earth. After the first stirrings of dawn had brushed the horizon, Zeus remained upon the highest ridge of Olympus, gazing across the expanse of sky and earth. The whispers of the clouds, subtle yet insistent, had not abated. They moved with purpose, curling and twisting in silver and gray tendrils that seemed almost alive. It was rare, even for a king of gods, to encounter such persistent murmurings. The clouds were restless, as though carrying news of distant lands, untold secrets, or the hidden machinations of both mortals and immortals. Zeus extended his hand, and the winds obeyed, swirling around him in spirals of power. The whispers grew more distinct, threads of sound that coalesced into stories, fragments, and warnings. Some spoke of mortal ambition, cities in the grip of pride, kings plotting in secret chambers. Others carried tidings of hidden groves where nymphs and spirits danced unseen, and of wild animals moving in patterns known only to the divine eye. Each murmur, each sigh of vapor, reached him with clarity, yet still retained the shimmer of mystery, a puzzle woven into the very currents of the air. He lifted his eyes higher, following the paths of the clouds as they twisted across the sky. They moved not aimlessly, but with intention, flowing along invisible currents, gathering in clusters as though conferring among themselves. Zeus recognized the signs. These clouds were not ordinary. They were spirits, emissaries of the sky, and they bore messages of consequence. Some murmured warnings of storms yet to come, floods that could reshape river valleys, or droughts that could test the patience of mortals. Others whispered of omens, subtle and delicate, which hinted at events that might shape the fates of kingdoms or the destinies of heroes. Zeus inclined his head, listening with the patience of eternity. His chariot, suspended in the air, hovered effortlessly as the horses pawed at the clouds beneath them, stirring small flashes of lightning that danced like fireflies among the silver tendrils. The murmurs of the clouds thickened, layering one upon another, a chorus of air and water, of shadow and glimmering light. Zeus discerned meaning in the harmonies, a noble act of courage in a distant village, a deceitful plot hatched in a king's chamber, a hidden lover's vow beneath the shade of an olive tree. The world, in all its vastness, spoke to him through these whispers. As he rode among them, Zeus felt the full scope of their sentience. These clouds were alive, not merely in form, but in will. Some fluttered with delight, carrying tales of joy and triumph. Others shivered with fear, murmuring of sorrow and loss. Still others coiled with mischief, whispering riddles that teased even the mind of a god. Their voices were not harsh or demanding. They spoke in rhythms of subtlety, in patterns of silver light and shadow, inviting him to listen and understand rather than command. From Olympus, Zeus could see the mortal world spread below like a living mosaic. Rivers gleamed with the reflection of the sky, forests rippled with hidden life, and distant cities shimmered under the morning sun. Yet even beneath the brilliance of Helios' rise, the whispers reached him, threads of sound that seemed to carry both time and intent. They spoke not only of what was, but what could be, potentialities woven into the fabric of existence. Some tales were bright with hope, others dark with foreboding, yet all carried the weight of significance. Zeus extended his hand again, and a cluster of clouds parted before him, revealing a hidden corridor of sky that no mortal could ever see. Within this corridor, the whispers converged, forming a delicate spiral of mist and light, their murmurs weaving a single, intricate pattern. Zeus leaned forward, feeling the electric charge of anticipation. This was no ordinary storm, no simple assembly of air and water. It was a council of spirits, a congregation of sentience that had chosen him as listener, witness, and arbiter. The murmurs began to shape into stories, each one longer and more vivid than the last. One spoke of a distant sea where sailors, unaware of the gathering tempest, risked their lives on waters that trembled beneath the weight of unseen currents. Another told of a hidden mountain pass where travelers, lost and weary, would find guidance only through subtle signs and fleeting light. And yet another whispered of a mortal king whose ambition would topple him unless divine intervention tempered his pride. Each tale flowed into the next, the threads intertwining like the currents of the heavens themselves. Zeus rode slowly, allowing the clouds to guide his path. His horse's hooves struck no sound upon the vapor. Their presence stirred only sparks of lightning that traced delicate patterns across the mist. He did not command the clouds, for he knew that their power was not merely in obedience, but in the sharing of knowledge. To force them would have silenced the whispers, ended the subtle counsel they offered. Instead, he moved with patience, with attention, with the measured grace of one who had ruled the heavens for countless ages. As he journeyed, Zeus felt a growing sense of purpose. The clouds carried not only warnings, but opportunities. Mortals could be guided, disasters averted, injustices tempered. The whispers spoke of small acts that might ripple outward, changing the course of history in ways no eye could yet perceive. Even gods, some of whom thought themselves beyond influence, were touched by the murmurs, their tempers calmed, or ambitions steered by the gentle insistence of the sentient clouds. He paused at the crest of a cloud ridge and surveyed the horizon. Far below, the rivers curved like silver ribbons, forests shimmered with the morning dew, and the distant mountains stood like silent sentinels. Above, the clouds gathered in patterns of power, their whispers converging into a single, coherent rhythm. Zeus raised his arm, and a bolt of lightning traced his gesture, illuminating the clouds and revealing their shapes. Serpents coiled upon hidden peaks, dragons soaring through vaporous skies, lions crouched in silent vigilance. Each form was alive, each shape a messenger, each whisper a story waiting to unfold. The murmurs spoke now of imminent events. A storm brewed in a distant valley, one that could either nurture crops or drown the fields. A hidden act of valor among mortals had the potential to inspire entire cities. Another whispered of jealousy and treachery among the gods themselves, subtle plots that, if left unchecked, could disrupt the harmony of Olympus. Zeus absorbed these tales with the stillness of a mountain, weighing consequence, patience, and the proper measure of intervention. And so the call of the clouds continued, each whisper a thread in the tapestry of the world. Zeus moved among them, listening, learning, and preparing. Though he wielded lightning and thunder with absolute authority, he understood that some power lay not in force, but in knowledge, in understanding the hidden currents that shaped existence. The clouds, sentient and secretive, had chosen him to witness their truths, to guide their effects, and to balance the delicate interactions of mortal and divine will. As the day progressed, the whispers carried hints of stories yet to be fully revealed, of secrets that would unfold in time. Zeus rode among them with quiet deliberation, the chariot of storm and lightning gliding silently across the sky. He knew that the coming days would require wisdom as much as power, patience as much as strength. The murmuring clouds were not merely instruments of his command. They were guides, counselors, and keepers of secrets too subtle for mortal comprehension. And thus the stage was set. Zeus, king of gods, wielder of thunder, arbiter of storms, had begun his journey into the hidden knowledge of the sky. The clouds whispered, alive with secrets, omens, and prophecy. The mortal world below continued in ignorance, its fate intertwined with the unseen council above. And the story of Zeus and the whispering clouds began in earnest, a tale of power, wisdom, and the subtle, eternal dance between heaven and earth. As Zeus rode among the whispering clouds, the murmurs began to take form and substance. What once had been vague hints and fragmented whispers now coalesced into distinct presences. Each cloud, though made of vapor and mist, carried the essence of a spirit, ancient and alive. They twisted, shimmered, and pulsed with personality, their edges glowing faintly with the light of hidden storms. Some were bright and buoyant, like the laughter of mountain streams. Others were dark and brooding, thick with unspoken sorrow or simmering wrath. And all spoken whispers only a god could understand, threads of language woven from wind, rain, and the very rhythm of the skies. Zeus paused on a silver ridge of cloud, his chariot resting as the spirits circled around him, each seeking acknowledgement. One spirit, tall and curling like a tornado of liquid silver, spoke of distant rains that would nurture parched lands. Its voice was a murmur of reassurance, carrying the scent of fresh earth and growing crops. Another, darker and heavier, rolled forward with the weight of storms to come, warning of floods that might swallow villages or drive rivers from their courses. Yet another danced on the edges of the sky, a flicker of lightning and vapor, mischievous and quick, hinting at hidden joys and playful accidents that could change the course of mortal lives. Zeus listened intently, his eyes reflecting the flickering energies around him. These cloud spirits were neither servants nor subjects. They were beings of knowledge and purpose. Each carried awareness of events below. Each bore witness to the choices of mortals, the schemes of kings, and even the subtle actions of lesser gods. They had lived longer than empires, had observed more than the eyes of mortals or immortals could see, and they remembered in a way that the world itself could not. Some spirits shimmered with the colors of dawn, soft pinks and golds threaded through their forms, heralding beginnings and the quiet triumphs of mortal courage. Others were storm-black, edged with silver lightning, speaking of dangers, hidden plots, and the quiet hubris of those who would challenge fate. Still others bore the softness of night, curling like smoke, whispering of reflection, hidden thoughts, and the subtle turning of events unseen by the eyes of man. Zeus recognized that in listening to them, he was witnessing a web of existence itself, each cloud a node in a vast network of cause and consequence. The murmuring clouds began to shift in patterns, forming shapes and stories in the air. One group arched into the shape of a soaring eagle, wings spread wide, talons grasping the secrets of a distant kingdom where men were plotting rebellion. Another coalesced into the form of a serpentine river of mist, reflecting the hidden currents of emotion in a mortal city far below. Zeus traced these patterns with his gaze, seeing both the literal and symbolic meanings, knowing that understanding them was a task that required patience, judgment, and foresight. The cloud spirits moved in dialogue with one another, exchanging murmurs and gestures that only the king of gods could fully comprehend. One spirit, small and quick, darted among the others, spreading knowledge like raindrops upon a river. It spoke of hidden loves blossoming in secret groves, of brave travelers who might alter the course of history by a single choice, of dreams that would ripple through generations. Another spirit, slow and ponderous, carried the weight of centuries, recounting the folly of kings, the greed of mortals, the subtle betrayals among lesser gods, and the consequences of deeds long past. Zeus absorbed each whisper, weighing the truth and significance, discerning which required immediate action and which must simply be observed. He raised his hand, and a flash of lightning arced through the gathering, illuminating the forms of the spirits in radiant clarity. The bright, laughing spirits recoiled slightly, while the darker, storm-laden spirits bowed in acknowledgement. Zeus spoke not with voice but with presence, commanding respect without coercion, for the cloud spirits answered only to understanding and recognition, not to force. Each spirit recognized that the king of gods was both ruler and observer, one who wielded power without extinguishing the subtle autonomy of beings older than many of the mountains themselves. The whispers grew more intricate, layering multiple tales at once. One spoke of a hidden mountain where a mortal hero, unaware of his destiny, would face a trial that might save an entire city. Another carried news of a distant sea where sailors, caught between calm and tempest, would find their lives hanging in the balance, their fates shaped by the rhythm of currents and winds. Yet another spoke of a grove where nymphs had gathered in secret, plotting to intervene in the affairs of mortals for reasons known only to themselves. Each story was alive, connected to the others, forming a web that spanned land, sea, and sky. Zeus moved among them with deliberate care, listening to the layers of meaning. He knew that storms, like wisdom, were not merely wielded, they must be understood. Lightning could punish, thunder could command, wind could drive, and rain could nurture, but their effects were never isolated. Each action resonated, cascading across valleys, seas, cities, and kingdoms. To wield the power of the sky required comprehension, and comprehension required patience. And so Zeus rode slowly, tracing the invisible threads that connected the whispers, absorbing knowledge, and weaving it into the silent judgment he alone could deliver. One cloud, heavier than the rest, shifted forward and spoke with deliberate weight. It carried a warning of hidden ambition within Olympus itself, a minor deity, envious and restless, whose actions threatened to stir conflict among the immortals. Another spirit, light and fleeting, countered with whispers of joy and inspiration, hinting that the same situation could produce great good if guided wisely. Zeus regarded them both, seeing the balance, understanding that chaos and order were threads of the same tapestry, and that wisdom was the hand that could weave them into harmony. The spirits' forms shifted constantly. Some became animals of myth. Lions crouched in anticipation, serpents curled in silent contemplation, eagles soared on invisible currents. Others became abstract patterns, spirals of mist, coils of lightning, arcs of shadow and light, each conveying meaning beyond the capacity of mortal eyes to perceive. Zeus observed them all, knowing that each form, each movement, each whisper carried knowledge that must be interpreted with both care and foresight. Below, the mortal world continued in ignorance. Villages slept, rivers shimmered, forests breathed, and the distant mountains stood in patient silence. Yet every mortal choice, every hidden thought, every act of courage or folly reached the cloud spirits and was carried upward, transformed into murmurs, stories, and omens. Zeus, listening, understood the intricate dance between mortal action and divine oversight, between free will and cosmic consequence. And then the whispers began to converge, forming a chorus of voices that was neither loud nor harsh, but insistent in its clarity. They spoke of a storm gathering beyond the horizon, a tempest not merely of rain or wind, but of events that could ripple through kingdoms, alter mortal destinies, and test even the patience of gods. They spoke of choices, concealed ambitions, hidden acts of bravery, and subtle betrayals. The clouds, alive with sentience and purpose, awaited Zeus' response. He raised his arm, summoning a soft arc of lightning to illuminate their forms. The spirits responded, bending, coiling, and shimmering with acknowledgement. Zeus knew the time was coming when he would need to act, to guide, to intervene, but always with the wisdom of listening first. The cloud spirits were his counsel, his mirrors, and sometimes his messengers. They would show him the paths of consequence, the hidden threads of fate, and the subtle movements of both mortals and immortals. And so, amid the vast expanse of sky, Zeus continued his journey among the whispering clouds, the spirits dancing and murmuring around him. Each moment revealed deeper layers of knowledge. Each movement carried weight, and each whisper hinted at the unfolding story of storms, destiny, and the eternal balance between heaven and earth. The stage was being set, and the saga of Zeus and the whispering clouds moved forward, a tale of power, wisdom, and the living, breathing intelligence of the sky itself. As the whispering clouds swirled around him, Zeus lifted his gaze beyond Olympus, beyond the peaks and forests, beyond the rivers and cities, to the distant lands where mortal ambition, folly, and courage played out unseen. The chorus of the cloud spirits had grown in urgency, a symphony of murmurings that carried weight and meaning beyond any ordinary storm. The king of gods felt the pulse of the world through the whispers, and with each thread of sound came the responsibility of judgment, tempered, measured, and eternal. The first tale reached him with unmistakable clarity. A mortal city, nestled between two rivers, had grown arrogant. Its rulers, intoxicated with wealth and hubris, plotted to seize lands far beyond their rightful domain. Their councils were filled with greed, deceit, and ambition untempered by wisdom or fear of divine consequence. The whispers of the clouds carried every secret meeting, every whispered plan, every hidden act of betrayal. Zeus absorbed them all with the weight of centuries, understanding that unchecked, the city's pride could bring calamity upon itself and neighboring lands. Raising his hand, he summoned a rolling swirl of clouds above the city. A soft, silver mist descended, seeping into the streets like a watchful shadow. The cloud spirits moved at his command, carrying whispers that reached the ears of the just and warned the reckless. Lightning flickered faintly at the edges, a silent reminder of the king of God's presence, while the wind bent subtly to convey caution, prompting even the most blind to sense that the heavens observed. Yet Zeus did not strike with fury. He tempered judgment with guidance. Sometimes restraint, subtle as the morning breeze, spoke louder than thunder. Far to the east, the whispers spoke of a mortal hero, unknown to kings and historians, who had undertaken a perilous journey across mountains and deserts to deliver aid to a village beset by famine. His courage, though humble and unnoticed by the world, shone brightly through the currents of the clouds. Zeus inclined his head in quiet approval. The murmuring spirits formed shapes above him, silver arcs tracing patterns of his travels, the hidden trials, and the unseen acts of mercy he had enacted. Zeus recognized that judgment was not only punishment, it was acknowledgment, reward, and subtle shaping of events for the good. Yet not all whispers brought tales of mortals. Some carried intrigue among the gods themselves. Lesser deities, envious or ambitious, plotted in secret, their schemes twisting through Olympus like hidden rivers beneath the visible mountains. One cloud spirit, thick and black-edged with storm, whispered of an immortal who sought influence beyond his station, threatening the harmony of divine order. Zeus regarded the cloud, his eyes flashing with lightning, yet his expression was calm. Judgment required not impulse, but wisdom. He would act, but with precision, ensuring balance, teaching the lessons of humility, patience, and foresight even among immortals. The murmuring of the cloud spirits grew more intricate, layering tales one atop another. A river in the north threatened to overflow from melting snowcaps, endangering towns and fields. A distant kingdom faced betrayal by a trusted advisor, whose secret schemes could ignite war. A fleet of ships ventured into treacherous seas, ignorant of the storm gathering above them. Each whisper, each fragment of warning, was a call to action, a call for the king of gods to exercise judgment in ways both visible and hidden. Zeus raised his chariot higher, drawing lightning from the clouds to illuminate the threads of consequence. One bolt traced a path of clarity through the vapor, revealing connections between mortal choices and natural phenomena. The murmurs became sharper, more urgent, carrying the sense that time itself was bending to these moments. Zeus, master of storm and sky, weighed each possibility, each ripple of fate, and chose where to act and where to allow events to unfold naturally. Power without wisdom could destroy. Judgment without understanding could be cruel. The whispers guided him toward balance, toward the measure of action befitting the king of gods. A tempest coalesced on the horizon, the cloud spirits weaving their forms in a swirling, living currents of wind and rain. Zeus extended his arm, shaping the storm not in fury but in purpose. The tempest would fall only where necessary, diverting floods from villages, sending rain to parched fields, tempering the pride of kings, and teaching lessons to mortals who had ignored wisdom. Thunder rolled not as punishment alone, but as a signal, a voice from the sky reminding the world of the presence of order, judgment, and care beyond mortal perception. Among the clouds, smaller spirits darted like sparks, whispering of subtle interventions. A nymph's hidden act of kindness in a distant forest, unnoticed by men, would ripple outward, averting disaster. A hero's unrecorded choice would save lives in ways history would never recall. Zeus observed each thread with infinite patience, understanding that judgment was more than thunderbolts and storms. It was subtle influence, the shaping of outcomes by hand both visible and unseen. Yet the murmurs also brought the heaviest trials. In a distant city, the ambitions of rulers had twisted into oppression. The innocent suffered, and the hidden cries of the people reached the ears of the cloud spirits. Zeus felt the weight of justice pressing upon him. He summoned the darkest clouds, rolling and coiling, thick with potential and power. A flash of lightning illuminated the paths of injustice, while rain fell in measured torrents, washing the streets not merely with water, but with the clarity of divine scrutiny. The rulers were shown the reach of the king of God's judgment, not in indiscriminate wrath, but in a precise, illuminating display of cause and consequence. Above, the cloud spirits shifted in response, some coiling with approval, others shimmering with anticipation. Zeus' gaze extended beyond immediate events to the subtle ripples that would follow. The punishment or guidance of the moment would teach lessons beyond the lives of mortals immediately affected. It would reach the hearts of kings, the minds of advisors, the awareness of cities, and the choices of future generations. Judgment was eternal, and the whispers of the clouds carried the echoes of time itself. And yet, even as he acted, Zeus tempered his authority with mercy. Some whispers told of mortals who had erred only through ignorance, of gods who had faltered only through curiosity or desire. Zeus allowed lessons to be subtle, veiled, guiding rather than destroying. Lightning struck not to annihilate, but to illuminate. Wind carried messages of warning, not only of danger, but of potential. Rain nourished both fields and understanding. Judgment, in this realm of whispers and storms, was not blind or cruel. It was measured, eternal, and precise. As the day wore on and the clouds twisted into ever more intricate forms, Zeus continued his work. He balanced pride with humility, ambition with patience, anger with justice. Every ripple of storm, every flash of lightning, every sigh of wind carried purpose, directed by the King of Gods through the sentient cloud spirits who served as both his messengers and his counsel. Mortals and immortals alike felt the subtle influence of his judgment, even when unaware of the hand that shaped their destinies. By the time the sun began to dip toward the horizon, the chorus of whispers began to soften, the storms abated, and the clouds formed gentle arcs of silver and gold. Zeus' judgment had been delivered, precise and far-reaching, both in mercy and in power. The world had been guided, lives had been touched, and lessons had been written into the tapestry of existence by the quiet hand of the King of Gods. And so, as the shadows lengthened and the first hints of night touched the sky, Zeus gazed upon the world with satisfaction tempered by vigilance. The cloud spirits, now resting yet still alive with murmurs, coiled and shimmered around him, awaiting further guidance. Judgment was never complete. The threads of consequence stretched endlessly, weaving mortal and divine actions into a tapestry beyond counting or comprehension. The King of Gods, wielder of thunder and arbiter of storms, descended slowly through the sky, the cloud spirits following like attendants of thought and voice. The murmurs had quieted, yet their meanings lingered, echoing in the awareness of the world below. And in that quiet, Zeus understood that the work of judgment was eternal, subtle, and precise, carried out not in the flash of fury alone, but in the measured guidance of wind, cloud, and storm. Thus ended this phase of the tale, as Zeus continued his eternal vigilance among the whispering clouds, shaping destiny, balancing consequence, and guiding the world in ways both visible and unseen. The story of Zeus and the whispering clouds had grown deeper, richer, and far-reaching, revealing the profound responsibilities that lay upon the shoulders of the King of Gods. As twilight draped the horizon in muted shades of purple and gold, Zeus remained aloft among the whispering clouds, his chariot gliding silently across the vast expanse of sky. The murmurs, though softened by the fading light, had not ceased. They had shifted, evolving from the urgent tales of action and consequence into reflections, insights, and subtle truths. In this hour, the whispers became lessons, intricate patterns woven from the interplay of mortal deeds, divine oversight, and the eternal rhythms of the cosmos. The cloud spirits circled him, each carrying their own fragment of wisdom. Some had observed courage, quiet and unheralded, in the hearts of mortals. Some had noted mistakes born of ignorance, impulsiveness, or pride. Others carried the invisible currents of choice, showing how one action, no matter how small, could ripple through generations, influencing events far beyond the actor's comprehension. Zeus absorbed these whispers, contemplating their significance, aware that the true work of a king of gods was not in displays of power alone, but in the subtle guidance of destinies and the teaching of lessons in patience, humility, and foresight. A delicate spirit, shimmering with the soft glow of moonlight caught in mist, drifted close. Its whispers told of a mortal artisan, unseen by kings and historians, whose hand had shaped a vessel of beauty and utility. This small act, trivial in the eyes of men, would ripple through time, inspiring future generations and nurturing creativity and harmony. Zeus recognized the profound truth in such a simple act, that greatness often lies not in the spectacle of power, but in the quiet consistency of care, in the unnoticed deeds that shape the world subtly and irrevocably. Another spirit, coiling darkly with the hues of storm clouds, brought a contrasting lesson. It spoke of rulers intoxicated by ambition, whose decisions, made in pride, had caused suffering far beyond their awareness. Their mistakes were like lightning strikes, sudden and destructive, yet each carried a message, a chance for mortals to reflect, to learn, to realign their hearts with the balance that governed the world. Zeus considered this carefully. Punishment without understanding could harden hearts. Guidance without consequence could breed recklessness. Balance required both, delivered in ways that harmonized with the natural rhythms of the universe. The whispers of the clouds began to weave together, forming patterns in the sky that mirrored the intricate tapestry of existence. Rivers twisted like silver threads beneath the clouds, forests shimmered with latent life, and cities glowed faintly with human activity, each node connected to the next. Zeus saw the interplay between mortal choices and divine influence, the subtle ways in which wisdom could guide without crushing, and mercy could temper justice. The murmuring spirits carried the hidden lessons, showing not only what had occurred but what might unfold, revealing consequences long before they became apparent to those involved. A spiral of clouds thickened above him, forming shapes of dragons, serpents, and great birds of prey. Each shape represented a different aspect of the moral fabric of the world: courage, envy, love, pride, patience, and sacrifice. Zeus extended his hand, and lightning traced each form, illuminating the intricate connections between deeds, choices, and outcomes. The whispers became clearer, more precise, carrying the subtle guidance of what must be nurtured, what must be corrected, and what must be allowed to unfold in its natural course. In the distance, the murmurs carried news of a hidden village, untouched by the hubris of kings or the chaos of storms. The villagers, living in harmony with the land, had faced trials, famine, wild beasts, floods, but their choices had preserved balance, honor, and courage. The whispers highlighted the delicate harmony they maintained, showing Zeus that even in the smallest and most remote corners of the world, the threads of cosmic balance could be observed and nurtured. He recognized that guidance was not only for the mighty or the ambitious, but for all who inhabited the mortal plane. Yet the lessons were not confined to mortals alone. Lesser gods, some ambitious, some misguided, moved within Olympus in patterns mirrored by the clouds. Zeus observed them through the whispers, noting their interactions, their desires, and their errors. Some sought influence through cunning. Others acted with impulsive generosity or misjudged the consequences of their whims. The whispers revealed the interconnectedness of divine and mortal action, the necessity of patience, foresight, and wisdom. Even the smallest act in Olympus could ripple through time and space, shaping mortal destinies and altering the flow of the unseen currents of the world. Zeus allowed the storm-laden clouds to gather, not in wrath but in reflection. Lightning flashed intermittently, illuminating the threads of cause and consequence. The murmurs of the spirits carried guidance, showing him that the art of judgment was as much about restraint and understanding as it was about action. He observed the cycles of events, the rise and fall of ambition, the quiet triumphs of courage, the subtle interventions that could redirect fate without breaking the natural order. Each whisper, each reflection, each pattern of cloud was a lesson in cosmic balance, a reminder that the universe operated on harmony as much as on power. A cloud spirit of silver and gold drifted close, its voice a soft hum. It spoke of love, devotion, and sacrifice, hidden in the unnoticed corners of the world. The whispers told stories of mortals who acted with courage not for fame, not for reward, but because it was right. These deeds, though unseen, carried weight in the balance of the world. Zeus nodded in solemn acknowledgement, understanding that the strength of the cosmos relied not only on visible power, but on the quiet accumulation of goodness, integrity, and intention. The murmuring clouds began to spiral together into a single, vast formation above Olympus, a living map of consequence and connection. Each thread represented a choice, each swirl a lesson, each spark of lightning a reminder that action and inaction both carried weight. Zeus' eyes traced the patterns, recognizing the delicate equilibrium that must be maintained between mortal free will and divine guidance, between chaos and order, between ambition and restraint. He extended his hand, and a bolt of lightning traced the spiral, touching each cloud, illuminating their lessons, and reinforcing the balance. The storm itself became a teacher, a reminder that power and wisdom must coexist, that guidance without understanding could fail, and that justice without temperance could destroy. The whispers of the clouds, sentient and eternal, carried these truths with infinite patience, awaiting the king of God's interpretation and subtle intervention. As the sun sank beyond the horizon, the sky glimmered with fading gold, violet, and silver. The cloud spirits, though still alive with whispers, began to settle, curling in soft, fluid forms that reflected the lessons of the day. Zeus gazed down upon the world below, seeing rivers winding in harmony, forests breathing in rhythm with the winds, and cities quiet yet vibrant with the lives of mortals, their choices subtly guided by unseen forces. Balance had been preserved, lessons delivered, and the interconnected dance of destiny continued with renewed clarity. And so, amid the lingering twilight, Zeus reflected on the hidden lessons of the clouds, the subtle influence of the spirits, and the eternal responsibility of a god who ruled not only with power, but with wisdom. The cosmos itself breathed with quiet order, the whispers fading into soft, persistent hums that promised guidance, knowledge, and insight for all who would listen. The story of Zeus and the whispering clouds continued, enriched by understanding, tempered by patience, and balanced by the eternal hand of the King of Gods. As night fell over Olympus, the sky deepened into shades of indigo and violet, dotted with countless stars that shimmered like distant lanterns scattered across the vast tapestry of the heavens. The sun, now vanished beyond the horizon, had left trails of gold and crimson light that lingered upon the clouds, giving them an ethereal glow. Zeus, king of gods, remained upon the highest ridge of silver mist, his chariot suspended silently among the whispering clouds. The murmurs, though quieter now, had not ended. They carried a softer cadence, more reflective, less urgent, a reminder that even as day passes into night, the lessons of the world are never truly silent, never fully complete. The cloud spirits circled him like attendants, each curling and coiling with quiet grace. They shimmered in the dim light, some silver, some shadowed, some alight with the faintest flickers of lightning, as if the memory of the storms, judgments, and lessons of the day still lingered within them. Zeus observed them with a calm majesty, understanding that their whispers were both record and counsel, testimony and guidance. They had carried tales of courage and folly, of ambition and humility, of love, deceit, and unseen heroism. Through them, the king of gods had seen the intricate dance of fate, the infinite web connecting mortal deeds, divine interventions, and the flow of time itself. Far below, the mortal world rested in the embrace of night. Villages slumbered, rivers gleamed with moonlight, forests whispered in the wind, and mountains stood as silent sentinels. Each mortal, though unaware, had been touched by the subtle guidance of the clouds, the steering of storms, the tempering of floods, the nudging of hearts toward courage or restraint. The lessons of the day, delivered through whispers, lightning, and rain, would ripple outward in ways both seen and unseen, shaping lives, decisions, and destinies across generations. Zeus knew that the measure of true power was not only in visible displays of force, but in such invisible, enduring influence. Above Olympus, the stars began to emerge with greater clarity, each one a distant sun, a quiet witness to the unfolding world below. The cloud spirits, sensing the approaching stillness of night, curled in gentle spirals, their whispers soft as the brush of air against the cheek. Even in their quietude, they remained vigilant, carriers of hidden knowledge, guardians of secrets, and messengers of the eternal balance between chaos and order. Zeus, observing them, understood that his work was never done. Judgment, guidance, and balance were eternal responsibilities, carried out not in the brevity of a single day, but across the vastness of time itself. In the quiet that followed, Zeus reflected on the lessons revealed by the clouds. Courage, when nurtured, could illuminate even the darkest corners of the world. Pride, when tempered by wisdom, could transform ambition into achievement. Love, sacrifice, and integrity, even when unnoticed, carried weight in the unfolding tapestry of existence. The murmurs of the clouds had shown him the delicate interplay of forces that govern the lives of mortals and gods alike. Each whisper, each lesson, each ripple of influence had contributed to the equilibrium that made the cosmos resilient, dynamic, and alive. Zeus' gaze drifted across the vast expanse of sky, where the faint traces of storm lingered like silver threads woven through the indigo night. Lightning flashed occasionally, a soft reminder of the day's judgments, interventions, and subtle acts of guidance. The murmurs of the cloud spirits, though now muted, carried echoes of what had passed and hints of what was to come. Each tale, each secret, each lesson would continue to influence the world in ways beyond mortal comprehension. The whispers had become a river of knowledge, flowing endlessly, and Zeus, as ever, remained its vigilant guardian. He lowered his chariot slowly, descending toward the palace of Olympus, yet remaining above the peaks and clouds, where he could survey all and intervene as necessary. The throne, now bathed in starlight, awaited him, silent and patient. Zeus, king of gods, wielder of thunder, arbiter of storms, returned to his seat with the calm authority of one who carries both power and understanding. Around him, the cloud spirits settled in coils of soft mist, forming patterns of reflection, balance, and eternal vigilance. The night deepened, yet the world remained alive, connected by threads of fate, whispered lessons, and the unseen hand of divine guidance. Zeus gazed upon the mortal realm, serene yet vigilant, knowing that every act of courage, every choice of wisdom or folly, would continue to echo through time, carried on the currents of wind, rain, and the whispering clouds themselves. The delicate balance of the cosmos had been preserved, yet the eternal cycle of learning, guidance, and judgment would continue, as it always had, and as it always must. In the stillness of night, Zeus reflected on the profound truth revealed by the whispering clouds. That power alone is not enough. That judgment without wisdom is destructive, and that the unseen guidance of patience, balance, and care shapes the world more enduringly than the flash of lightning or the roar of thunder. Mortals slept, gods watched and waited, and the clouds themselves murmured softly, guardians of knowledge and wisdom, ever present, ever watchful. And so the story of Zeus and the whispering clouds reached its serene yet powerful conclusion. The king of gods, surrounded by the living whispers of the sky, remained vigilant, his judgment measured, his wisdom eternal, and the balance of the heavens and the earth maintained. The night passed in quiet majesty, the cosmos breathing in harmony, as the murmurs of the clouds, soft as the exhale of eternity, promised that the lessons, guidance, and stories would continue, carried ever onward by the breath of the heavens and the watchful gaze of Zeus.